Pep Talk UK, Pro Bees. Delighted to be joined once again with Bob Arum and the voice of reason, Dean White. Bob, it's been a little while since Las Vegas, the last big show in boxing. It's fitting that you're back as the first in boxing to hold a show. How are you feeling?
That is right. That is right. I mean, the last big show when the curtain came down was the great victory by Tyson Fury over Deontay Wilder. Really, the whole sporting world was watching that event. That was great. And then we got hit with this coronavirus. Although I must say, we were the first, Top Rank was the first to know about the coronavirus because we had scheduled an event for this resort area on an island in China for Chinese New Year, beginning of February. It was going to be televised back to the States on ESPN. That Jose Ramirez defending his title on the card, a lot of Chinese fights. And then we heard of the coronavirus in Wuhan. The island was pretty far away. And then we got a report that there were 12 cases on the island. And at that point, we talked with ESPN and we thought it was wise to cancel it. So we called up the organizer at the site, and he agreed that it should be canceled, and we ended that. So at that point, we knew that there was this virus, that it was serious, and it was traveling. The fact that it traveled from Wuhan to an island on the other side, any moron would know that it was going to travel all over the world. But, you know, that's what happens when you elect morons to office. We had a moron sitting in the White House, and he didn't know what the hell he was doing.
Interesting. You said, obviously, you knew about the corona first in boxing.
We're the first ones, and it canceled the first event.
Right. So has this sort of put you in good stead to lead the way in boxing come June 9th with Shakur Stevenson?
I don't know, but we weren't going to do it like the UFC, you know, just rush in and do it. You know, they opened up in Florida to do it, made a lot of mistakes because they just rushed in. Now they're back in Nevada, and the Nevada Commission is, you know, we're using the same protocols pretty much. So again, I knew right away that this virus was going to knock everything to smithereens. How we're lucky we got the Tyson Fury fight on right before, because then 2 weeks later we were in New York, and we're going to do Shakur's fight in New York, and also 2 days later, St. Patrick's Day, Mick Conlan's fight, and both of those got canceled. So it is what it is, and hopefully we're going to be up. We're up and running starting tomorrow, and we're going to do 2 to 3 events every week in June or July. I talked to Eddie Hearn and Frank Warren, and they say they're going to be up in July, which is great. And gradually we'll work our way back. We'll do fights safely without spectators, and then we'll do fights with limited number of spectators. Say you do a fight in Royal Albert Hall, which has about 8,000 seats, and you do it for 1,000 people. You know, that kind of event, I think, will be allowed. And then hopefully by the end of the year, or worse, sometime next year, when they have a vaccine or the virus has been handled, but I can't see how it gets handled without a vaccine, then we'll go to events with full stadium. I mean, that's the best we can do. The point is, we're not responsible for this virus. The virus has, is out there, and it affects us in boxing as well as people in all sports, and also people in every walk of life.
Bob, you mentioned Shakur Stevenson. I saw some glowing praise from Desert Storm, Timothy Bradley, about Shakur. He thinks, we've got Mayweather reloaded in Shakur Stevenson.
That's what I believe. I believe, and that's what I've said to people, that, we handled Mayweather for the first 10 plus years of his career. And, great fighter, tremendous technician. And Shakur, I recognize, was, the left-handed version of Floyd Mayweather. And I really believe he has a bigger upside as a fighter than Mayweather, as great as Mayweather's career has been. Whether he'll ever be as big an attraction as Mayweather, I don't know. Mayweather had the ability to attract fans and market himself tremendously. Whether Shakur will eventually have that remains to be seen. But as a fighter, I believe that he will compare very favorably to Mayweather.
Dean, we've got Big Dean White in the building. Our reunion out in Vegas, I think we did an interview out there, which I very much enjoyed. But we talked about Tyson Fury. And there's rumors that Tyson Fury versus Wilder could be on Boxing Day in Australia.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, while we were doing this, I heard my phone ring. And I didn't take it, but it was Dean Lanigan calling me from Australia. Here's the situation. We're used to doing big fights from Australia because the Aussies, we did the Pacquiao-Horn fight. And the Aussies do events, are willing to do events around noon on a Sunday. And that is equivalent to prime time in the United States. It's like when Ali and Fraser fought in the Philippines, and it was in around noon, prime time back in the United States. And with Pacquiao, we did a number of his fights in Macau on Sunday morning. So we've done that, and that's not a problem. And I know that Dean can get big sponsorship money from the Aussie government, whether it's the provincial government or the national government. They have a fund to bring events in. The big problem is, will they this year allow a fight to go on in a 50 or 60,000 seat stadium without social distancing? That's what we don't know. The same problem we have in the United States. He believes, Dean does, that because of the small number of coronavirus cases in Australia, that Australia will open up sports for full spectators, whether it's their football, boxing, before the end of the year. And if that happens, it will be marvelous to do the event in Australia, particularly around that Christmas Day, because that would mark the anniversary that Jack Johnson couldn't fight for the title in the United States because he was black, fought Burns for the title in Australia, became the first non-white heavyweight champion.
Yeah, no, that sounds amazing. Anyway, obviously a different demographic of people, Australia. If they haven't been hit by the virus that bad, maybe they might open up more quicker than likes of America, the UK, and stuff like that.
That's the point. So, that's the hope. I know? No. We're all in an area that we haven't been in before.
Yeah.
So hopefully hopefully that is a good possibility. Another possibility for Fury Wilder is we have a new unbelievable stadium in Las Vegas where the Las Vegas Raiders, the football team, will be playing. Beautiful building. I mean, it's incredible. And AB will be able to use that building that has 65,000 seats, plus what we put on the floor. Maybe we'll be able to do it for 20,000 people. So there's a lot of moving parts here.
Okay, that's interesting. Do you know, what I'd like to ask is, there was a lot of speculation and rumor about Deontay Wilder taking step aside money and making Fury fight Anthony Joshua. Could you shed any light on something like that?
What I knew, we've dealt throughout this with the Wilder. There has never been any mention on their part about paying step aside. And the question is, even if they were looking for it, which they weren't, who was going to pay it? Where was the money going to come from? It's great that they step aside money. Who's going to pay it? Right? I wasn't going to pay it. I ain't going to pay anybody not to fight. Fury says, don't look at me. I ain't paying this guy not to fight. Right? So the idea of step aside money was just from what maybe Frank said or what Eddie said, just in passing. But there has never been any discussion whatsoever about step aside money. And if there was a discussion, somebody even suggested that I pay even part of it, I would have hung the phone up.
And it was a lot of money. I heard figures of 8 million and 10 million. I did.
Oh yeah, it's great. You can, everybody can
all numbers up the sky.
Fantasize about it.
Yeah.
Maybe somebody will pay me money not to promote it.
Do you know what? Another question I was looking at. I remember, I think maybe last year sometimes they were talking about Stevenson versus Josh Warrington. That seemed like a good fight, that he was going to come over here, maybe make his UK debut and go to Leeds, Ellen Road and fight Josh Warrington. I'm not sure what happened to that. What's the possibility of that in the future?
Shakur wants to do that, and I talked with Eddie Hearn about doing it, and as soon as this thing opens, to either a big audience, normal, or even an audience which is partly filled. Stevens is ready to come over and fight Warren. If none of this had happened, Stevenson would have fought in March, and probably in September, August or September would have fought Warren. So that's still on the board. We're still talking about it. A great fight, and I'd love to do it. And I want to get Stevenson over fighting in the UK because I think fans are so astute in the UK. They know boxing that they'll see what a great, marvelous talent Stevenson is.
Finally, Bob, you mentioned, I saw somewhere online that you're not a fan of mandatory challenges. Something about Dillian Whyte stepping in for Deontay Wilder if he's injured. I mean, can you please clarify exactly what you meant in terms of mandatory challenges? Is that something that you're interested in making happen, Dillian versus Tyson?
What bothers me is you have these champions who are recognized as big champions in the public, and they're forced very often to fight fighters who nobody heard of. That's unfair economically to them. The whole business of mandatories where you get relatively unknown fighters, and I'm not talking about Dillian Whyte as an unknown fighter, but we have to realize that with this coronavirus, so many months taken out of a fighter's career. If he's a champion, he should have the ability to fight a big fight. And as far as Fury is concerned, the public wants to see him fight Wilder again, to make sure that wasn't a fluke last time, and then to go right into a Joshua fight. Now, if Joshua loses to Bula, then if Fury beats Wilder, and then Dylan White steps up and he says that Fury should fight him, and there's no Joshua fight, and he already fought Wilder, I think that's legitimate. People can say, hey, that's a real good fight. White's been mandatory for so long. Why not do it? I mean, you know, then you have a Fury with no Joshua and a bunch of other fighters that he could choose from. And why not choose? Why not do the fight with Dylan White? That's all I was saying. In other words, don't let Dylan White being a mandatory interfere with a Fury fight with Joshua. If Joshua beats Pula, Fury beats Wilder, the fight everybody wants to see all over the world would be Fury and Joshua. A mandatory fight should not be able to derail the fight the public wants to see.
Right.
They do say that unification fights do take precedent over mandatory, so I get the angle where a lot of people are saying that obviously, you know, two champions, they want, you know, maybe to see if there becomes one name, one face, like Deontay Wilder keeps saying. But, you know, Dillian has been waiting a long time. He's probably coming up 3 years soon. And he does deserve his shot like anyone, I guess. You know, once you make your mandatory position, you're in, you know, the opportunity arises that you get your shot at the title. But obviously, in this time we're in now, it's just unfortunate that Fury's fought Deontay Wilder 3 times for a trilogy, and then you've got the unified champion Anthony Joshua waiting in the wings now, saying, "Well, listen, let's get a big unification and get all the belts on the line and see who is the number one Uno out of everyone." So, you know, obviously the WBC said it's mandated for February 21, but because of the coronavirus and everything that's gone back, there is a possibility that it will get pushed back, unfairly so. But, you know, I guess no one predicted what was going to go on this pandemic, and it was going to have such an effect on boxing and the whole world, not just boxing, you know. So we're in a position where we just have to wait and see, and look at the you look at the fights that unfold, and take them by one, because obviously Dillian needs to get past Povetkin, which
right, and if the fight that is now that is on the board for next year, if that fight will occur, Fury and Joshua, they fight once or twice, whatever. Dylan White can make a big name for himself, fighting in the interim, and then when he fights the winner, can make a huge payday. In other words, you know, there has to be a lot of sense involved here. His management can't push something that makes no sense, in my opinion. So, you know, in reaction to a lot of these mandatories, what the WBC did was to keep mandatory, but to make a guy like Canelo franchise champion and make a Lomachenko franchise champion. That allowed fighters like Campbell or Devin Haney to fight for the WBC title and not to bother Lomachenko or Canelo with a mandatory fight, particularly while these guys were fighting the top person around. And I think, you know, nobody's asking the WBC to make Tyson Fury a franchise champion. But if Dylan White pursued this idea of fighting Tyson Fury before he fought Wilder again, and then Joshua, that would be the way that I think the WBC would go, and Dylan White could fight whoever he wanted and call himself an interim WBC champion. I mean, the public is the public. They're not stupid. And the public knows who's the champion. And particularly now that we've had this period where we haven't had fights, I think we got to do the right thing. And the right thing is to do the fights that really appeal to the public.
But in terms of like the diamond belt, what was the purpose of them doing the diamond belt and the franchise belt? If that was the case and they wanted to alleviate the pressure on the champions, Dillian's at the minute is the WBC interim champ, then why wouldn't they maybe put the diamond belt on the line for him to just go and fight maybe the people who are underneath the likes of Anthony Joshua, Fury and Wilder until those guys have fought each other, and then he's in his position to fight for the title when all said and done.
Look,
what's your thought?
Look, all of these belts, I don't know. As long as it does good business for certain people, the organization, who cares? Everybody who's got any brain knows who the champions are and who the champions should fight. And the more we get back to that, the better off we'll be. If Canelo, if Lomachenko, if Fury ducks anybody or is not fighting who the best guy is, then I'd feel differently. But as long as Lomachenko looks for the toughest opponent in Lopez, who's the IBF champion, and Fury is looking for only the top opponent, whether it's Wilder or then Joshua, I don't think anybody has the right to complain. And the organizations, I think, are going to be smart enough now to do the right thing.
Absolutely. Thanks very much for your time anyway. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Keep
Thank you, Bob. Pep Talk, subscribe. Thank you. Thanks, Bob.
All right.